Believe it or not, it's been over 17 years since the World Wrestling Federation became World Wrestling Entertainment. And since that fateful day of May 5th, 2002, when WWE officially got the F out, things have changed quite a bit in the company. However, some things have stayed the same, namely a handful of wrestlers. That's right, even though the company has changed its name almost 2 full decades ago, some of WWE's current roster still remembers getting in the ring during a time when entertainment was a federation. And these select few are the topic of this episode, because today, Dave knows 7 current WWE wrestlers who wrestled for the WWF. Alright, first let's set the ground rules. For this list, I am specifically looking for wrestlers who appeared on WWF TV as an in-ring performer. Doesn't matter to what capacity or under what name or to what extent. They just have to wrestle specifically on WWF television, which means that house shows and dark matches do not count, and neither does developmental territories like Ohio Valley. And that sword cuts both ways, as NXT does not count either. They have to wrestle for both WWF TV and current WWE TV as of this recording. But that does bring me to my next point, because when I'm talking about current, what do I mean? Well, I mean specifically active roster, even if they're out with injury or are not being used. However, I am not counting special appearance wrestlers such as John Cena, The Big Show, Kane, Triple H, or The Undertaker, even though they all wrestled on both WWF TV and have appeared on recent WWE programming. I'm looking for wrestlers that are more involved in the current product, even if it's not all that much more involved. And speaking of which, that brings me to the first entrant on this list. Brock Lesnar. Yes, I know I'm pushing it by counting him as an active roster member, since he's about as part-time as the lover in that Stevie Wonder song. However, unlike everyone I mentioned earlier, Brock actually had a WrestleMania match as well as a SummerSlam one, as well as also being a title holder, much to my dismay. But as much as it pains me to say, Brock has played a significant part of the current WWE scene, so I can't really deny him being on this list. Now, going back to the other end of his career, Brock did start off in OVW, but he first appeared on WWF television on the March 18, 2002 episode of Raw, and he had his first official match at Backlash on April 21st, just barely managing to make the cutoff: the Hardys. Next is the man who Lesnar defeated in that match, as well as his brother, as the following entrant is the Hardy Boys. Matt and Jeff both started off in WWF as young up-and-comers. Jeff made his first appearance as a jobber named Keith Davis, and he counted the lights for Razor Ramon all the way back in 1994 while he was still a teenager. In that same year, Matt would also debut, losing a match to Nikolai Volkov on May 23rd, and then appearing on Monday Night Raw on July 11th in a losing effort to Crush. However, in 1998, the two would sign with the organization and become the Team Extreme that we all know and love. Flash forward to today, and after everything has been both broken and woken and brought back together again, the Hardys get the honor of wrestling for both WWE and the WWF. But while they haven't been seen on TV too much lately, they still do count as far as I'm concerned. Next up is Randy Orton. Another alum from Ohio Valley Wrestling, Orton started out making his rounds for WrestleMania 18's Fan Access. However, his first official television match was both wrestling against and defeating Hardcore Holly on April 25th, 2002, less than 2 weeks before the name change. Now, at only 22 years old, Orton definitely had a long career ahead of him after first joining the WWF, so it's no wonder that he still appears on WWE television and is also still a viable contender for the top prize, having wrestled Kofi Kingston for the WWE Championship at SummerSlam 2019. RTruth. While he may not be as young as Orton, RTruth, who is approaching 50 in a few years, is surprisingly fairly active on WWE TV, even more so than many other wrestlers who are far younger than him. But while he is doing pretty well on WWE right now, many might be surprised to know when he first started out. After spending time on the independent circuit, he was urged to send a promotional tape to the WWF. Following that, he signed a 2-year developmental deal back in 1999, where he wrestled for another one of WWF's developmental territories, Memphis Championship Wrestling, under the name K-Quick. But then, on the November 13th, 2000 episode of Monday Night Raw, he would come to the aid of the Road Dogg. From there, he would have his very first match on WWF TV, partnering with his newfound friend on the following SmackDown against the team of Dean Malenko and Perry Saturn. Samoa Joe. While considered to be a somewhat major player in WWE right now, having appeared on both the main roster and NXT, many fans forget that once upon a time, Joe was not always the big star that he is today. Not long after first training in professional wrestling, Joe would find himself signed to Ultimate Pro Wrestling, a WWF developmental territory. And while there, he would feud with a young John Cena, tag with Mike Knox, and he would also get a guest shot on WWF television going against Essa Rios in a losing effort on February 26, 2001, in an episode of WWF Jacked. But Joe wouldn't return to McMahon television for quite some time, as it took almost 16 years before Samoa Joe would make it back onto WWE main roster programming, returning to in-ring Raw action on February 26, 2017, a week after making his Raw debut appearance where he attacked Seth Rollins. And of course, all this happened after his run as NXT champion, his entire TNA career, and his major stint in Ring of Honor. And finally, we have AJ Styles. The face that runs the place is another wrestler who, like Samoa Joe, made quite a name for himself before arriving in WWE. But just because his biggest run working for Vince has happened under the E, that doesn't mean that he didn't start out by trying to get the F in. As some of you might be aware, AJ Styles and his partner Air Paris impressed the brass of WCW so much that they offered them contracts in early 2001. From there, he would appear on WCW and even got to compete in a tournament to crown the very first ever WCW Cruiserweight Tag Team Champions. But unfortunately for AJ, about a week after the tournament, WCW would be bought by Vince and Kennedy McMahon. However, AJ was given a tryout match before taping of Monday Night Raw, but to no avail, as WWF did not offer him a contract. Although AJ was still not done yet, as on January 26, 2002, on an episode of WWF Metal, AJ would finally appear on WWF TV. And this time around, he would be offered a WWF contract, but since it required him relocating to Cincinnati to be a part of the developmental territory Heartland Wrestling Association, AJ actually declined, as he did not want to disrupt his wife's college plans. Then, after an extensive career all around the world and in promotions from New Japan, Ring of Honor, and TNA, finally, at long last, AJ Styles would return to McMahon TV at the Royal Rumble on January 20th, 2016. But this time around, the house that AJ Styles built wouldn't be in the WWF, it would be in WWE. Well, there you have it, 7 wrestlers who have the distinct honor of wrestling for both WWF and still wrestling for WWE. But what do you think? Who of these is your favorite wrestler? Let me know down in the comments. And also, don't forget to check out and subscribe to my comic book channel, Dave Knows Comics. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, Dave knows.